Finally, we get to the final battle with Count Cannoli. Surprisingly, it's not even remotely close to the climax of the game, but this is going to be our final bout with the rival thief that we've been dealing with through the entire game. After the first two robots couldn't do it, and Barfatronic couldn't do it, and his ethereal helper person couldn't help him to figure this out. Then the dolphin thing, which fell flat once Wario broke his way through the wall, and now we have to fight him Eggman style in his final robot. The last thing that he built, and it's completely pathetic. Ha! Eat that, Silver Zephyr. Your final robot is a piece of shit. It's not as bad as the first robot, but for being the 8th boss of the game, this guy is definitely not doing it justice. And I know that this boss is at the beginning of the level, so it's technically a mini-boss, but still, even Ocarina of Time mini-bosses, even ones against just regular enemies, and there's just 3 of them, are way more challenging than fighting this guy. Because you could go through almost the entire frickin' thing just as Science Wario and be completely fine. And that's because Count Cannoli has one attack up his sleeve. He added Fist to his robot, so the entire fight is just him doing flying punches across the screen. Except here's the fucking massive problem. If you stay in the biggest dip in the arena, because you can technically fight the robot throughout the entire thing, but there's really no point because the stable ground on the right side of the screen is the one that's going to be the most risk to you. So you're gonna fight in the arena where you start. Because if you do that, if you duck while Cannoli is doing a flying punch, you're guaranteed to not take a hit because he leaves a safety envelope under himself that is big enough for you to just duck over. And the weak point is obviously on the back of the robot. And you get plenty of frickin' time to punch the button, so even if you frickin' screw it up a couple of times, you can still get a hit in. And then all you have to do after that is just jump on Cannoli 3 times and the whole thing's over. This boss fight is like half the length, 50% of every other boss that we've been fighting in this game up until now, even including the usual minute of cutscenes. It's a piece of piss, man. Like, this is pathetic, and this is like the 5th combat robot that Cannoli has thrown at us, after he's gotten help from the other side of the lifeline. He has a ghost helping him out, and still he's bringing out this Class D fucking shit? Cannoli, you're even better than this. I mean, even you, at your low standard, is better than the fucking flying punch robot. I do like it as a joke boss fight, but as a boss fight in of itself, I mean, it's just filling up 3 minutes of game time, and that's pretty much all it's doing. It's really, really funny, and I do appreciate it for that. I'll definitely give it story points, but gameplay-wise, there's a reason why joke bosses are usually just pushed into an entire cutscene, and that's it. Or maybe some QTEs in the cutscene. It's because joke bosses don't work. They just don't. Bosses need to be focused on the gameplay. They're supposed to be the satisfying challenge of the game. Challenge, which means difficulty, which means unique gameplay, which means doing something other than what we've been doing throughout the entire game to make yourself feel special. Wasting a boss fight on a joke, while it is incredibly funny just because it's Count Cannoli, is really not a good thing for, you know, just in the game, like playing the game. You get the joke after the fact, but you still have to fight the boss. I guess what I could really just say is that rather than making the boss fight a joke, maybe put in an additional cutscene where Count Cannoli gets some sort of ridiculous comeuppance for being so useless and stupid the entire game. You can have the jokes in the cutscene and still have the challenging fight afterwards. I mean, you could have had both at the same time. Do the fun boss fight that's sort of challenging, and then have a funny cutscene afterwards, like he falls down a cliff because he got, I don't know, his ejector seat broke or something. And that's just one idea. There's a lot you can do with the video game that you built, Suzak. You don't have to completely handicap one of your bosses for a really funny joke. There's other ways you can go about this.